A couple of days ago, I wrote a song, or at least I tried to. Lately, I've been struggling to make videos, not because I don't want to make them, but because I feel like I've run out of things to say. Over the last 3 years, I've made videos about loneliness, yearning, nostalgia, giving up, and pretty much every piece of media that I could see myself in. At some point, it started feeling like I'd already talked about everything that mattered to me. My friends sometimes joke that whenever I'm sad, I can just watch one of my videos. They're taking the piss, obviously, but I think there's some truth to it. If you watch this channel for long enough, you probably notice that I'm constantly talking about the same feelings through different movies, games, songs, and stories. And recently, I started wondering what happens when you run out of media to hide behind. I was smoking with my friends and someone happened to be there. Not with me, not even near me, just somewhere else in view. Every now and then I'd notice her looking over. Neither of us acknowledged each other. Neither of us said anything. Eventually, we both went to class. That's really it. Nothing happened. Growing up with media, I always daydream of something spectacular happening to me. This grand moment where everything just clicks and you feel euphoric again. That never really happened to me. Life doesn't really give you that closure or some stuff like one of us finally saying everything we've wanted to say. It was just two people who used to know each other, standing in the same place while pretending the other wasn't there. I don't really know why this specific event stuck around more than everything else. There are happier memories, more important memories, more significant memories, but for whatever reason, that's the one that ended up becoming a song. Or at least half of one. The lyrics came surprisingly easy. I wrote them pretty quickly after a shower. The problem is that I still can't finish the actual song. Every few hours I'll pick up my guitar, play the same few chords, hate all of them and stop. Then tomorrow I'll do the exact same thing. At first I assumed it was just writer's block or whatever you call it in the music space. I figured that I'd eventually stumble into the right melody, but after a while I started wondering if the song itself wasn't actually the problem. Because the more time I spent trying to finish it, the more I started thinking about the last few years of my life and the way I've used art to deal with things. I've always made things when something in my life goes wrong. When I was lonely, when I felt disconnected from people, when I moved away, when I was depressed, when my relationship ended, I made things. For a long time, I thought this was a good thing. Honestly, I still think it is to some extent. Creating has gotten me through a lot of difficult periods in my life. There have been nights where the only thing keeping me occupied was a video I was working on or a script I was writing. Having a project gives you somewhere to put all that energy instead of sitting there replaying the same thoughts over and over again. I'd make a video, I'd do a project, I'd create something that didn't exist before, and in my experience there's something generally beautiful about that. The problem is that I don't think I ever stopped to ask myself whether I was actually moving forward or whether I was just finding more creative ways to stay in the same place. When I look back at a lot of the videos I've made over the last few years, I notice a pattern. At the time, they all felt completely different. One was about yearning, one was about giving up, one was about nostalgia and loneliness, media, and it's just about games or movies I couldn't stop thinking about. But when I watch them now, they all feel connected. They're practically about the same subject. They're all attempts to understand a feeling, an attempt to preserve something, and I think that's where things start to get complicated for me. People talk a lot about making art from pain. It's probably one of the most common ideas surrounding creativity. The struggling artist, the tortured musician, the writer pouring their heartbreak into a notebook. We've romanticized that idea for centuries. And I think the reason we romanticize it is because it works. Pain does create art. The problem is that nobody talks about what happens when the pain starts becoming useful. Because when something becomes useful, you become reluctant to let it go. I'm not here thinking, I hope I stay miserable so I can keep making videos. I don't think anyone wants that. But I do think there comes a point where your suffering becomes tied to your identity in ways you don't fully understand. The topics of sadness, loneliness, and heartbreak gives you something to talk about, analyze, and create. And eventually you stop seeing those things as temporary emotions and start seeing them as part of yourself. And that's where I think I've been stuck. I don't think I've spent the last few years trying to get somebody back. I don't think that's what it is. I hope so. I think I've spent the last few years trying to understand what happened to me. Those are very different things. The problem is that understanding something and living inside it are also two different things. Sometimes I wonder if I've crossed that line. I wonder if I spend so much time turning my experiences into art that I've accidentally made those experiences larger than they really were. At this point, I don't think they're important anymore, but revisiting them became part of my routine. I started making videos to cope with things. Then I kept making videos because coping had become familiar, and eventually I reached a point where I wasn't even sure if I still loved making videos in the same way I used to. That's probably the realization that scares me the most. The possibility that somewhere along the way I lost a thing that made me want to create in the first place. I remember being younger and getting excited about ideas. I'd watch a movie and immediately want to tell people about it. I'd play a game and spend days thinking about it. I'd hear a song and instantly become obsessed. As a kid, there was curiosity in it, maybe excitement, or maybe even discovering something. Now, if I'm being honest with myself, it often feels like I'm maintaining an old injury. It's like I'm checking in on the same parts of myself over and over again to make sure they're still there, and I don't think that's entirely healthy. At the same time, I don't know how to stop, because I genuinely love the things I've made. I love my videos, I love my writing, even when they're messy or feel robotic, they're still part of my life. They're records of who I was at a specific point in time. That's why I have such mixed feelings about moving on, because I want to move on, I really do. I don't enjoy carrying around sadness, I don't think anyone does. I don't enjoy spending months thinking about moments that happened years ago. But every time I think about finally letting go, another feeling appears. A feeling that if I move on completely, I'll lose something important. The version of myself that lived through all of that. The meaning I've attached to those experiences. Maybe it's the art itself, I honestly don't know. What I do know is that I spent a long time turning memories into projects, and lately I've started wondering if I've been doing that because I love creating, or because I don't know who I am without those memories anymore. That's not a comfortable question to ask yourself. Maybe that's why I can't finish the song. Maybe finishing the song would force me to admit that the moment is over, that the memory already happened, that there isn't anything left to solve. And maybe the hardest thing in the world is accepting that some moments don't become anything bigger than themselves. Or maybe that's exactly why we make art, because we can't accept that. Because we want those memories to mean something. I spent years turning memories into videos. I kept trying to understand why certain memories refuse to leave me alone. Maybe I'll spend another few years trying, maybe I won't, I honestly don't know. What I do know is that my life kept moving while I was busy looking backwards. Somehow I kept moving too. And the funny part is that I'm not dead yet.
The day breaks, your mind aches. You find that all her words of kindness linger on, but she no longer needs you. She wakes up, she makes up, she takes her time and doesn't feel she has to hurry. She no longer needs you, and in her eyes you see nothing. No sign of love behind the tears cried for no one. A love that should have lasted years. You want her, you need her, and yet you don't believe her when she says her love is dead. You think she needs you. said long ago she knew someone, but now he's gone, she doesn't need him. The day breaks, your mind aches. There will be times when all the things she said will fill your head. You won't forget her.